Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're going to dismantle pretty much everything you thought you knew about your own happiness and success. We're pulling directly from the incredibly profound insights of author Brianna Wiest, specifically from her book 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. If you've ever felt like, you're your own worst enemy, literally standing in the way of the life you actually want, well, you're in the right place. Let's get right into it. So, let's kick things off with a pretty startling question, one that might completely reframe why you feel stuck right now. Are you, psychologically speaking, entirely incapable of predicting what makes you happy? Think about it. We spend so much time building these elaborate vision boards and plotting out our 5-year plans, just assuming we know exactly what's going to bring us joy. But the science and the psychology, they suggest something completely different. Yeah, science reveals a massive cognitive dissonance here. See, your brain is essentially a prediction machine, but it's built entirely on past data. It can literally only perceive what it has already known. So when you're choosing what you want for the future, you're not actually predicting anything. You're just recreating this idealized solution from your past. We often feel like failure is not because we didn't achieve our goals, but because our brains will actually misinterpret any foreign, new reality as a threat, even if that new reality is objectively way better for us. Crazy, right? Today's explainer is going to take you through 4 paradigm-shifting phases. First up, subconscious limits on happiness. Number 2, rethinking your uncomfortable feelings. 3, the habits of emotional intelligence. And finally, number 4, bridging the knowing-doing gap. By the end of this, you're going to have a solid framework to build real emotional resilience. All right, let's dive right into phase 1, subconscious limits on happiness. Okay, so we've got to start by humbly accepting a concept called naive realism. This is basically the assumption that we see the world exactly as it is. Spoiler alert, we don't. The truth we experience every single day is just an output of our own minds, and it's heavily filtered by our unhealed experiences, our fears, and our cognitive biases. We project our own subjective stuff right onto reality, kind of like assuming everyone in the office is mad at you just because you skipped your morning coffee and feel irritable. Once you realize your perception isn't the absolute truth, you finally unlock the ability to change it. Now, here is a deeply uncomfortable truth. Most people don't actually want to be happy. I know, that sounds totally crazy, but it's true. People just want comfort. We all have what psychologist Skay Hendricks calls an upper limit. Basically, it's the specific capacity or baseline for how much good we actually allow ourselves to feel. When our success or our joy pushes past this invisible emotional threshold, it feels unfamiliar. And since the brain equates the unfamiliar with danger, we will literally self-sabotage and destroy our own success just to get back to the cozy comfort of what we know. And because of this upper limit, we trick ourselves into staying stuck in so many sneaky ways. We'll artificially delay taking action just so we can sit in self-pity, secretly hoping someone else will come along and fix things. Or we'll deliberately stay under a likability limit, shrinking our success because we're terrified that outshining others will cost us their love. Sometimes we even adopt apathy, wrongly believing that not caring will somehow protect us from the pain of loss. Deep down, we fear that sustained happiness means we've just given up our ambition. So we end up choosing the familiar comfort of misery over the vulnerability of unknown joy. Which brings us right into phase 2. Rethinking your uncomfortable feelings. Let's completely reframe how we look at this. The myth we're all taught is that fear and pain are bad deterrents, like if something feels scary, you absolutely shouldn't do it. But reality is actually the exact opposite. Think about it. If you didn't genuinely care about doing something, you'd just feel totally indifferent. Indifference is the real sign you're on the wrong path. So that massive influx of terror you feel when you think about pursuing your wildest dreams, that is actually your inner compass pointing the way. Fear literally equals interest. When you start viewing yourself as the actual protagonist of your own life, these highly uncomfortable symptoms stop looking like failures. Just look at these signs of emotional growth that we almost always mistake for breakdowns. Feeling lost? That actually just means you're ditching old narratives and becoming way more present. Experiencing irrational anger? That is just repressed emotion finally coming to the surface so it can be healed. Downsizing your friend group? You're not being antisocial, you're just recalibrating your boundaries. These aren't setbacks, guys. They're flashing neon signs telling you you're shedding old habits and finally getting on the right path. I really want you to just sit with this incredibly powerful thought from the author for a second. Numbness is not nothing, neutral is nothing. Numbness is everything at once. So many of us walk around feeling stuck, tired, or just entirely numb, and we think our emotions are broken. But your numbness isn't a lack of feeling. It is the sheer, overwhelming exhaustion of suppressing absolutely everything you haven't processed yet. Real healing isn't about forcing yourself to pace on a smile and be happy. It's about giving yourself permission to just feel whatever is already there. Moving right along to phase 3, the habits of emotional intelligence. We really need to dismantle this modern expectation that we're all supposed to act like these well-oiled, highly operational robots. Society tells us that emotional intelligence means having this infallible composure, like never getting upset, never showing a single crack in the armor. But true emotional maturity, it's letting yourself experience and manage the entire spectrum of your feelings. It's the capacity to feel, express, and interpret your emotions productively. It's knowing that a bad feeling isn't going to end you, and it certainly doesn't equal a bad life. To actually reach that level of maturity, you have to distinguish between different types of happiness. The happiness of pleasure is great, right? I mean, it's eating a glazed donut or buying a first pair of shoes. But it's totally sensory, immediate, and super fleeting. On the flip side, the happiness of excellence isn't about chasing that next immediate dopamine hit. It's about committing to the unsexy, deliberate pursuit of something way bigger than your fleeting desires. You find it in a state of flow, in meaningful work, in discipline, and in building an identity you're genuinely proud of. And this right here is exactly why routine is the ultimate tool of the emotionally intelligent. We usually think of routines as these boring prisons that kill all spontaneity. But psychologically speaking, your daily habits actually create your underlying mood. By regulating your actions, you literally deactivate your brain's primal fight-or-flight instincts, simply because you aren't confronting the unknown every single second of the day. Predictability gives your subconscious mind the exact safety net it desperately craves to actually relax, dial in, and slip into that deeply rewarding state of psychological flow. All right, let's hit phase 4, bridging the knowing-doing gap. Okay, let's tackle this final massive psychological roadblock. The ancient Greeks called it akrasia. Today, we just call it the knowing-doing gap. It's that incredibly frustrating experience of knowing the absolute best thing to do for yourself, but doing something else anyway. And why do we do this? Because we are physiologically hardwired to prioritize immediate comfort and survival. This little biological glitch keeps us trapped in a manic state of indecision, constantly procrastinating on our own potential, just because doing the actual work feels temporarily uncomfortable. But here's the thing, the practical solution to beating akrasia is not waiting around to magically feel ready. Spoiler, you are never going to feel fully ready for the things that actually matter. Instead, you conquer that resistance by totally shifting your perception of what discomfort is. You do this by vividly visualizing the long-term agony of inaction. Just imagine the sheer pain of missing out on the exact life you were meant to live, all because you chose to be comfortable today. When the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the pain of changing, you'll take that one small step to build momentum. The answer to this whole dilemma is captured perfectly right here. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking rather than think your way into a new way of acting. I mean, we spend hours, days, sometimes literally years over-intellectualizing our problems, just crossing our fingers that a new mindset will strike us like a bolt of lightning so we can finally start doing the work. But the action is what creates the mindset. It's those small, deliberate, daily actions that actually rewire your brain's deeply ingrained pathways. Ultimately, the core message we're pulling from Brianna Wiest's work is that changing your life depends entirely on your willingness to systematically change the way you think. It's all about recognizing your own mental biases, actually feeling your emotions without letting them dictate your reality, and having the sheer discipline to choose the happiness of excellence over fleeting, easy comfort. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you today. If you had to live today, the exact choices, actions, and mindsets you exercise today, on repeat for the rest of your life, where would you end up? What intentional choices are you going to make right now to ensure you don't spend the rest of your life simply running from discomfort? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to really reflect on what you're going to change today.